Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with the final regularly scheduled game of the day, I do believe, and it's gonna be OMG versus LMQ, a rematch once more between the Chinese, not really Chinese team and the Chinese actually Chinese team. Let's have a look at the bans. Yeah, we see a couple of predictable bans. Rise, Alistair, and Cillian getting banned by LMQ. This is LMQ just playing by the numbers. Like, these guys are some of the most banned champions. Let's get rid of them because we don't want to deal with them. While on the other side, Rumble, with all of his zone control, which quite frankly was part of what won C9 that last incredible game. Excuse me, I just had a drink of water. And Jarvan against No Name, which is interesting, considering that he has never been banned this tournament before.
Indeed, although they are probably fearing the amount of zone control that he is able to put down in lieu of Rumble having it anywhere, in lieu of Rumble being banned out. They also banned out Twitch against Vasily, given the assassination potential from the Rat. We saw that even though they did lose against Cloud9, Magic White Shield's Zephyr was able to do quite a lot of damage by sneaking up on the right target at the right time. Now, No Name isn't only a Jarvan player. He does have access to Lee Sin, whose early game presence against the enemy team is quite significant. He does a lot of damage. He is able to traverse across the map quite quickly. It is hard to pin down. It is hard to keep off your backside once he lands a sonic wave on you. Furthermore, backing up his team will be a Thresh on Moore, currently held by Ackerman. Thresh is an immense crowd control type support champion, and that with a single death sentence, he's able to stun a target, pull him closer, and has the option of closing the distance between him and the target to flay him into the fight and keep him in harm's way.
Yeah, so Thresh is definitely an interesting pickup for LMQ here, because getting it away from Data777, I think the only champion I saw him put up a decent performance on was Thresh. On literally anything else, he has been having some trouble this tournament. Let that be fair to say. He has had some positional misplays, and he's gotten killed a little bit, and he's gotten his team
he's gotten
his team into quite a bit of trouble in a few of their games. So taking away the champion that it seems he was most comfortable on, it's probably going to count as a bit of a win in pick and bans for LMQ. Possibly this is also why they picked it first of all.
Yes, indeed. Now, also backing up. Moore will be backing up Vasily with his stress. Vasily's running Kog'Maw, which is a very long-range AD carry champion, in that he mostly does damage via his auto attacks. Now, unlike a lot of AD carries, Kog'Maw's auto attacks later in the game will not only extend a great range, thanks to his abilities, but also deal damage based on percent of your health via magic damage. So even if you stacked up a lot of HP, a lot of giant spells, and basically made yourself as beefy and tanky as possible, Kog'Maw can quite easily finish you off in a few hits.
Yeah, he will always be able to deal a certain amount of damage to you. You can, of course, mitigate a lot of his other damage besides the percent health damage, but you're never really going to be able to shut him out completely if he gets to pound on you without response. So Kog'Maw is going to be a priority target for OMG as they go into the game, and it is worth noting that Kog'Maw doesn't scale really until late in the game, so you can't just count on being able to kill him sort of in the early game, and then you're going to be fine. No, he's going to come back in the late game, and he's going to hurt you in the late game if you don't find a way to get onto him reliably and deal with him.
Yes. Although Kog'Maw does have a lot of range even early on thanks to his abilities, unfortunately, he's not very mobile. He can waddle around like a worm, but in terms of escaping an enemy attack, that's not very likely for him. Or as San will be playing, I believe it was Lucian. Yes, it was Lucian, who is, unlike Kog'Maw, very, very strong early on. Thanks to his passive ability, whenever he casts a spell, whether offense or simply his dash, his next auto attack will fire off twice, dealing 1.5 amount of damage he would usually do with a single auto attack. So early on, thanks to his dash, he's able to get away from trouble as well as get in your face whenever he wants to, and deal a whole bunch of damage that you're otherwise not expecting. Along with that, Lovely is playing Kha'Zix, which is a jungler that can leap over walls and get in your face with a bunch of claws and fangs and teeth, and otherwise do nasty stuff to you. Especially if you're caught alone, like No Name will be in his jungle most of the time.
Yeah,
Furthermore,
definitely.
Kha'Zix can turn invisible at level 6, making it very hard to prevent him from getting into your backline in the first place.
Yeah, he is a slippery one, definitely, and he used to have, by the way, just this is a bit of trivia, he used to have a damage reduction on his ultimate, like, which meant that whenever he was invisible, he took only half the amount of damage from any source, which was ridiculously overpowered. Like, he could run into the middle of an enemy base with 4 turrets firing at him, and he would still come out all right. Well, that's perhaps an exaggeration, but it was really, 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 really quite tanky without having to build any items for it. So that has been nerfed away quite hard, and it's a testament to Kha'Zix's viability and strength that he's still picked, despite not being as monstrously overpowered as he used to be. And I think Obscurica is eating something, and that's the crackling we're hearing.
Oh, my apologies. I was covering some bag. Okay, it's put away. My apologies.
Yeah. Let's see. OMG is stacking up near the top side of the map. This is usually the kind of thing that signals either a lane swap, which is where they send their bottom lane to the top lane to confuse LMQ and hopefully gain an advantage over them, or an invade onto LMQ's jungle, which means they're going to try and sneak into LMQ's side of the map and put down some wards to get some vision. But here's the thing. LMQ seems to have had exactly the same idea, and while LMQ have spotted OMG going into their jungle, OMG has not spotted LMQ doing the same to theirs. So if LMQ can get out without getting seen after taking the buff, they have a little bit of a knowledge advantage in the early game. It won't last long because I suspect OMG will be coming back to check on their blue buff quite soon. But nonetheless, a nice little they're stacking up. If anyone gets too close, if Dada gets too close, he's known for giving up those first bloods. If anyone gets too close, Vasily's pretending to run away, is he? 4 versus 3, level 1 team fight. Come on, guys, that's the first blood. Once again, it's on San. For once, it's on San instead of Dada 777. Dada 777 leaves his AD carry to die in his place. For once, he has not given up the first blood.
For once in his entire week. Unfortunately, first blood is a huge advantage to LMQ and hurts OMG a lot, because normally when a player dies for a first time, they only give up 300 gold to the enemy team. First blood, however, gives Vasily over 400 gold for him to start off lane with, which is an enormous advantage in terms of what items he can build and win. Furthermore, Lovely's attempt to turn the situation around for OMG has failed. Ackerman was spotting him trying to steal the blue buff away from LMQ's side of jungle, and he's forced to disengage instead, giving LMQ a potential 3 buff advantage along the way. Now, the reason why this is such a problem for him is because blue buff is without stealing the blue buff, he's wasting a lot of time and health that he has no name will be able to use to farm over the jungle and become more powerful. And what blue buff does is give a champion lower cooldown reduction as well as a higher resource regeneration, so he can use his abilities more often and more frequently.
Yeah, so that's a huge advantage in the early game. Number one, they got the first blood on the carry, like on this super late game scaling AD carry, which means the more gold and the more kills Vasily can pick up in the early game, the faster he's going to get to his late game, because late game is not a specific time in the game where the timer ticks over and now a sign comes up says we're in the late game. It's more a matter of where is the team generally in terms of how many kills, how much gold, how many items they have. So if you get a lot of gold early, you reach your late game faster, and the team that reaches late game first will generally be having quite a lot of an advantage over the enemies.
Now, earlier we saw that OMG wanted to take the 2 versus 2 lane, and they suddenly decided that maybe we don't want to get into Kog'Maw that has the first blood advantage.
Yeah.
Normally, Sai would have had the advantage with Lucian's double tap, aided by Dada 7's shield to give him extra my apologies. extra physical damage to lay down on Vasily, but that's no longer an option. Now they're going. What they want to do is make it so that if they can't fight on a 2 versus 2 basis, they can at least mitigate each other's top laners' growth. Gogoi is going to have a tough time laning. Gogoi, you'll see, is wandering around the jungle with Lovely to pick up minions from both sides of the jungle, and that's because he doesn't feel safe going up against Vasily on a one-on-one basis until the minion line reaches his turret. Now, the reason why this matters is because...
they're going for a dive onto LMQ. We've got a 4 versus 2 dive coming in. Now, the turret does a lot of damage to enemies, so Dada's just going to stand on the outskirts and laugh.
Oh, what?
Tanking. Okay, Dada was attempting to tank the turret damage here. Unfortunately, it went quite wrong because he overestimated the amount of damage he could take, and he paid for it with his life, making this not a unsuccessful turret dive because, frankly, they gave up 2 for 2, and both their jungler and their top laner wasted a lot of time hanging around that bottom lane, which LMQ are happy to translate into an ever-growing CS lead for Vasily.
Well, they only gave up 1 kill actually for 2, but Dada 7 did not need to die there. He was doing what he was supposed to do, in that he tanked the aggression and focused front of the turret so that his team can finish off the enemy team, which they did. Lovely pick up a double kill, oh, it was a 2 for 2. I thought LMQ already picked up first blood though.
No, it was a 2 for 2.
Okay, that's strange.
But, yeah. Hang on, that doesn't make any sense. Yeah, because, like, they picked up the first blood on San, right? He was executed by the turret. No one got the assist out of it.
He never got aggro on him. That's why. The counter only counts whether or not LMQ personally killed him, but they did overall lose 2 people in the fight. Dada 7 took 3 turret shots when he was only healthy enough to take 2, like a noob. And gave up turret pressure as a result.
Yeah, so he was executed by the turret, which means you didn't take any damage from the enemy team or any enemy heroes, but you still got killed. That can sometimes happen with turrets or even with minions if you're really, really bad at the game. So when that happens, you don't give up any gold to the enemy team. You do give up experience, though.
Now, because LMQ was taking it out, they were taking it out before OMG. They were the first to respawn, while OMG had to slowly back off and recall to their base in order to heal up. This, despite taking a small match over LMQ in bottom lane, it ultimately did mean that OMG gave up pressure and had to give up the Dragon objective over to LMQ. Now, the reason why Dragon matters is that if the team that takes Dragon down gets gold for all of their team at once, I believe it's approximately 100 gold at this point, with the Dragon worth more gold the later the game goes on. Since OMQ got it, they have the timer on the Dragon, because I don't believe OMG had actual vision on it, and knows when Dragon is about to go up again. Dragon respawns every 6 minutes, so in 6 minutes from now, we'll probably be seeing LMQ try to repeat the match and extend their gold lead over Team OMG.
Yeah, what you saw there, by the way, the reason Vasily suddenly started moving really quickly is because Moore had thrown out his lantern. Now, the lantern is an ability that Thresh, the green guy walking around next to Vasily, has. And what that does is it puts the lantern on the field, that provides a little bit of vision, and any allied champion who clicks on it will be instantly transported to Thresh's location, or at least very, very quickly transported to Thresh's location. And it's a very effective way to save a friend from trouble, or to bring a friend who's far away into a fight that you're engaged in.
Yep. We also see that at this point, Vasilius has finished building his Phage, which is an item that gives you a little health and a little extra damage, but the most important aspect is that whenever you do an auto attack, you move a little faster. So this is a bit of a safety in that if he lands an auto attack on even a minion, he can run a little faster away from any trouble. Or if he's attacking a champion, every single time he does an auto attack, he's able to move towards that champion a little faster and keep him pinned down under a rain of fire.
Yeah, so that's definitely, and also what that Phage will do eventually is build into an item called the Trinity Force, which basically gives you a little bit of everything, and it's really honestly quite powerful on a lot of characters, but especially on Kog'Maw, because it has a passive effect whereby if you use a spell, your next auto attack will do a ton of extra damage, and since Kog'Maw has so many spells with such a low cooldown, he will be using spells all the time and be able to take advantage of that particular trait of the Trinity Force very, very often. So that's basically, once he hits that item, that's his first power spike. He will become quite powerful already there, and anything added to that after will just snowball him even further ahead.
We see that Xiao is playing a Xerath, which is a long-range artillery-type mage. Basically, he's able to stand back, charge up his spells, and hit you from halfway across the screen. But to do that requires a lot of mana. His spells may take a while to charge, but they have relatively low cooldowns. And for him to keep poking at targets and making sure that he has... well, first of all, we have a fight going on between Ackerman and Going and Lovely, and Ackerman, unfortunately, has gone down to Lovely.
Ooh, yeah, that was... I think you were perhaps a second ahead of me or something, but yeah, that was a cruel death. I'm in 10 seconds and 10 now.
I'm at 10-12, so it's only 2 seconds ahead.
Yeah, that's not too bad. Okay, we just need to be synchronized so we're looking at the same things happening. We've got another bit of a deep dive here, Data777 going quite quite deep underneath that turret. He's relying... oh my... What the
Oh.
hell were you doing there, dude? Honestly,
Why was he going through that way?
Dada is the kind of person who sometimes does these things, and don't look to us to explain to you why that happens. It's just a thing.
There's no explaining Dada 7.
Yeah,
There's no explaining it.
He makes decisions that are honestly so questionable as to be idiotic sometimes. So we're not going to talk about them too much. We're just going to say that Dade went down, gave over a kill to, I can't even remember who killed him, I think it was Xiao Wei Xiao, and he's not even going to be worth that much gold anymore right now. So everything has reset because nobody really got a decisive advantage out of that dive. We're still looking at 3 kills and 3, and about a 600 gold advantage for LMQ over OMG, which is barely anything. Even the wards are quite even with OMG having a little bit of vision on LMQ's side of the map, and LMQ having just a tiny shred of vision on OMG's side of the map. Oh my word, Ackerman gets caught again. Yeah, Ackerman is not having a good time.
Yeah, that's honestly awful. Lovely used his stealth ability to sneak up on Ackerman and slow him down with his missiles, which made it possible for Cool to simply walk up and land his shockwave ability, which is an enormously powerful magical nuke that also drags him into towards the center of the ball that he casts over him, and made him even harder to escape from. He followed the shockwave up with Dissonance, which is an ability he casts around the ball that not only does damage but also slows down any targets that goes through him, or speeds up any allied champions or units that passes through the radius of effect.
Yeah, exactly. There's a thing I need to take care of. So solo cast for a moment.
No problem. So right now we also see that San has built the Brutalizer, which is the club, the wooden-looking club in his inventory. That's in his first slot. And what the Brutalizer does is gives him 2 longswords worth of damage, but also reduces his cooldowns by 10%. Since his double tap passive relies on him casting spells, the more often he can cast a spell, the more damage he can do. Ackerman is wise enough to actually ward the bush, catching out Lovelink, whose ultimate is up, but he's not willing to waste it for no reason. So that's a good thing. Ackerman is probably not going to die again. We also see that, we see that Cool has finished up his Athene's Unholy Grail, which is the gold and red cup in his first inventory slot as well. And what Athene's Unholy Grail does is it increases his magic resistance, or ability to shrug off magical attacks, especially from Xiao Wei Xiao. It also will provide extra mana over time. Whenever he uses mana, he regenerates mana a little faster, and reduces his cooldown so he can use his spells more frequently. So cooldown, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And like Ackerman being caught out so often, he's not far behind on minion score. He has killed 66 minions to going 70, but being caught out so often, giving up kills so often. In the early game, the death timers are low. You can get killed, respawn on the fountain, and get back to lane pretty quickly. But as the game goes later, if Ackerman keeps getting taken out, he's going to become a huge problem for LMQ, because without him on the field, they lose some of their more powerful team-fighting abilities. And, almost stole the dragon away there. Not quite, though. We've got a fight engaging. We're going. A nice shockwave. Pulls in Xiao Wei Xiao and No Name. Doesn't really do too much damage yet, however, and everyone just disengages after the dragon dies. Xiao Wei Xiao trying to get the last couple of hits on Lovely. Not quite enough, and I have forgotten what I was talking about before the fight started. Oh, yeah.
That's all right, because, yes.
Lulu, if she dies, that's a lot of powerful teamfighting ultimates that they will absolutely need. That's shields and extra health and a lot of extra durability for the team that they will need in order to win teamfights late, especially when you've got the likes of a Kha'Zix, the likes of an Orianna on the field, who can burst down someone so bloody quickly once they have their items.
Now, what we see just now was a trade in turrets. The turrets in the game, as we saw earlier, deal a whole bunch of damage to the enemy champions as long as they are attacking one of you. Oh shoot! San just stole the blue buff away from LQ. That's an impressive little poke.
Ardent Blaze?
Oh.
Or did he
either
use
the Ardent Blaze or the Piercing Light? Either way, that was really impressive. By stealing away the blue buff, all of the experience and the benefits of the buff go to him instead, and are taken away from Xiao, who could really, really use the amount of regeneration.
Especially right now, he has no mana left. He's forced to go back. He can't stay anywhere because Xiao is so dependent on his abilities. If he doesn't have the mana to cast any spells, he can't do a damn thing, and his spells are really, really expensive because they're so powerful.
Yes. Furthermore, by losing out the bottom and middle, outer bottom and middle of turrets, LQ suddenly lost a lot of map control. We saw when Dota 7 went down earlier in the game that the turrets are usually considered a safe spot for a team, as they are able to act as a sixth man effectively, dealing damage to any of the enemy champions that happens to try to attack you, making that tower dive earlier very, very risky. By losing the turrets, they lose a point that they can retreat to and deter OMG from taking the fight to them. So suddenly, Dragon Control is heavily in OMG's favor, as there's now LQ has to consider very carefully whether or not they want to challenge it for next time and risk losing many of their lives in order to do so.
Yeah, we see a little bit of an engagement coming up in the top lane because OMG don't have 4 members up there, and LMQ didn't know about them, so that's a hell of a lot of damage. Now, Dada does get taken out again as Nomin comes in from the side. He gets the ultimate from Lulu on him, making him quite a lot bigger and quite a lot tankier, letting him survive a little bit longer. Going gets taken out by Ackerman and Vasily, and now the chase is on as Xiao is poking in from the outside, but Loveling, however, does get the kill back onto Ackerman finally, making this one a 3 for 2. 2 for 2? Yeah, 2 for 2.
Indeed.
No, wait a minute. Moore was there, and he went down.
OMG's favor. Yeah. Moore went down earlier in the fight. So it's definitely 3 for 2 advantage for OMG, and that they were able to catch LMQ unaware by hiding in that bush. Now, the bushes in the game render you invisible to anybody outside of the bush, and that doesn't have a ward in it, up until the point that you land an auto attack on them. So by patiently waiting out LMQ and not attacking them, they were able to bait them into a very, very bad position, way too close, and all within the radius of their spell effects, making it easier for them to basically just dump raw damage on top of their heads.
Yeah, so that was not really great for LMQ. That's the thing that happens when you don't have vision control. You can see that OMG have plenty of wards up in the top lane, but LMQ not so much.
Indeed. Now, unfortunately, Xiao is caught. He's been slowed and tagged by Dada 7.
Yeah,
but
nothing's really. Nobody was close enough to follow up on it, really. Cool was already walking away, so Dada was just chasing him a little bit extra.
Part of that reason is because they currently don't have a complete vision on where the rest of LQ is, although they are penetrating into LQ's side with more and more wards to spot them out. Now, wards in this game are a way to expand your vision. The sight stones give you a radius of extra vision deep into the fog of war, which basically otherwise covers everything up, and lasts for 3 minutes while staying invisible to the enemy team. There are ways to find invisible wards, however, by using the vision ward, which is a pink one that does stay visible but detects everything else around them, and does not expire until somebody actually deals 5 points of attack on them and takes it down.
Yeah, Vasily is caught out a little bit alone up here. Moore finally comes in to help him, but we've got a lot of collapse going on. Like, almost all of both teams is slowly moving up towards the top lane, so we're going to see another engagement here, because OMG are intent on taking down this turret, which is already very low, which means LMQ can't stay under it, and now they're sort of getting chased away from their own recently dead turret by OMG, who are just going to steal a couple of things in the jungle on their way out.
Yep. We also see that we do, however, okay, so LQ is in a little trouble now because they've lost all their outer defenses, so it's really risky for them to go to any of the mid-river objectives, whether it's Baron Nashor, or whether it's Dragon, or whether it's the enemy turret. We do, however, see that they are slowly accumulating in power. Vasily has finished up his Trinity Force, whereas San is still on his basic items. So whenever he uses a spell, including his ultimate, Living Artillery, his next auto attack will shred the enemy for a lot of damage. So it's just a matter of whether or not LQ can find a decent fight.
Yeah, LMQ are basically going to have to go looking for aggression, and now, I should note, both of these teams are Chinese in origin. LMQ were Chinese scene team, they moved to North America, and now they're fighting against some of their old rivals from China, and whoa, so far that's not really going great for LMQ. Okay, well, only one death. They get Ackerman, once again, he's 0-5-4 now, a terrible record, even worse than Dada's, actually. And now, anyway, the rivalry that they already had from China is got to be playing into this match a little bit, as well as the fact that Chinese teams have a tendency towards, well, aggression and pressure and relentless eagerness to team fight. As you can see right there, as Going is jumping happily onto 3 members of LMQ once again because he thinks his team can follow up fast enough to help him, and that takes a lot of confidence both in yourself and in your team. So it does say something about the Chinese teams that they are so willing to fight. When you saw European teams and Korean teams earlier in the tournament being very much more careful, like Xiao going in to try and put down a ward there, not really knowing where the hell OMG are. That's a mistake, but it's also overconfidence. So, and that some of that comes from that Chinese mentality.
Indeed, it does. The Chinese meta game is infamously built around pressuring people into making mistakes rather than clean strategies in play. Dragon does go off to OMG now, who has taken 2 of the 3 of them, giving them a substantial 6,000 gold lead at this point. We also see that Going is quickly reaching his own milestones. He's already acquired Rod of Ages, which provides him not only extra mana, extra health, but also a little bit of extra ability power as well, which amplifies the damage from his spells. Now, furthermore, Rod of Ages is also an item that slowly grows in power over time. And once he holds it for 10 minutes, it will have reached its maximum bonuses on all 3 statistics, making him the tankiest champion in the game at the time.
Yeah, definitely. Like, the only person who could possibly be tankier than him might possibly, I'd say Lulu on Ackerman's LMQ. Lulu with her shield and with her ultimate on herself could possibly be tanky enough to stand toe-to-toe with Going in terms of raw health, but not for long.
Yes, and that's because not only will he be building a lot of defenses, he'll also be building an items that reduces his cooldown, allowing him to spit out spells like a machine gun. You'll see the cloth armor, the t-shirt in his inventory, along with the blue sapphire crystal. And the 2 of them will be combined into Glacial Shroud, which not only provides more armor against LMQ, especially from Vasily and No Name, but also reduces the intervals between when his spells are available and when they are down.
Yeah, and that's a key stat for Maokai, especially because his ultimate has a bit of a cooldown on it sometimes. When it's used, it can be used for 10 seconds maximum, and then there's a cooldown. In that cooldown, OMG are vulnerable to LMQ's engagements because he can't put down that extra 20% damage reduction across the entire team. So, if he can reduce that cooldown, he can reduce the windows of vulnerability, which enables OMG to make more plays across the map because they will have more points in the game where they're strong enough to take a team fight without worrying.
Indeed. We also see that, let me see. We see that both teams are positioning for the Baron Nashor pit right now, and the reason for that is because Baron Nashor is one of the most dangerous objectives in the game, whether to go after or even to give up. And that's because, okay, No Name's currently being taken down.
He's taking a lot of damage to flash away. Loveling taking almost all the health off the jungler. Now, the jungler has a spell called Smite, which he uses to take down jungle objectives. It only works on neutral monsters like the Baron, like the buffs, like the lane minions. It does not work on heroes, but it does a ton of damage in a huge burst to those monsters. So, if an enemy team is taking down an important objective like the Baron, and you can get in over the wall and use your Smite on it at exactly the right moment, you can steal the buff away before the enemy team can do anything. It's a very risky play, but also one of the flashiest and most impressive plays you can make, and in a situation where you're behind and the enemy is taking Baron and you can't fight them for it, that's really your only option to get it back from them other than poking them away from the Baron.
And poking them away from the Baron doesn't, but no, poking away works. A lot of teams are forced to do that, even if they know that they can't personally go after the Baron. But poking is a very temporary strategy because, oh, that was a nice escape. So what you saw was them trying to clear out wards and establish division dominance over the Baron pit, but because OG was already on their way back, No Name wasn't able to do more than clear out a single ward, which means that LMQ is definitely blind in an important area, and they'll be finding it hard to find an opportunity to go in and counter OMG's attempts.
Oh, yes, certainly it will. Vision wins games. I think we can safely say that. If you have more vision control, you have more ability to make plays, you have more ability to choose your position correctly, and you have more ability to fool the enemy into taking a fight they really, really shouldn't. So, honestly, whoever has the better ward control, and OMG has the better ward control by far, has the advantage in any fight, as besides, the 5,000-6,000 gold advantage that they're building up, and the 2 extra turrets that they've taken that LMQ haven't been able to answer yet.
Now LMQ does have a lot of vision options on their hand, as both their jungler and support has picked up the Sightstone, which is a unit that not only gives you a lot of health, but also allows you to drop up to 4 wards, three max on the field at a time, Sightstones only. That allows you to have a full command of the vision in their area. The problem, of course, is that LMQ can't currently safely get out of their turret ranges, which means that most of the wards on the field are either Sightstones that Lovely hasn't yet spotted, possibly because there's a bug in that bush, and the wards that they put out on the last push. Whereas OMG, because of how safe it is for them to, comparatively safe it is for them to push out into the river with the bases nearby, the outer top of the turret nearby is able to insert wards into LQ side of the map.
Yeah, what Ackerman just did there, by the way, he shot a skill shot at the Baron, which damaged the Baron, which triggered the Baron to attack Going. Now, that's not really dangerous when it's just 1 hit, 2 hits, but if Going had stayed there, the Baron could have done quite a bit of damage to him, so Going did have to get out of there, and the Baron keeps attacking even if you're outside of his pit for quite a bit of range, so that was an effective way to zone OMG away from the pit and help them establish a little bit of ward control. Of course, OMG have swept straight back in and are taking it all down again.
Indeed. You earlier saw San use the culling, which is kind of a skill shot. It's basically a blast of storm of bullets going downwind of him that can do a lot of damage, but mostly tends to be used in games to clear out minions, as it does bonus damage to minions and neutral monsters. In that instance, he was using it to scout out LMQ to make sure they weren't at Baron. And right now, the teams are basically just positioning for the next objective and playing rather passively because they do not want to make any mistakes.
Yeah, the thing is, when you hit someone with a skill shot, and it's pretty inconsistent across abilities, but certain abilities, when you hit the enemy with them, you gain vision of them just for a short moment. You can see what you hit with your shots. So if an enemy is in the fog of war trying to take something down, and you throw out a skill shot and hit them, that'll give you an idea of whether anyone is even there. That's why sometimes you'll see characters throw skill shots or abilities into brushes or into fog of war, like without even knowing whether anything's there. They're only checking for it.
Yep, because it's better to waste a little mana than to be caught by a bad ambush and die.
Definitely, it's better to almost anything. That's why you have the flash. That's 5-minute cooldown, better than a 30-second death timer. Honestly.
Yep. We do see that San has finished his Infinity Edge, which is an item that grants him not only extra physical damage, but occasionally makes it so that way his auto attacks, his basic attacks, deal bonus critical strike damage. By having the Infinity Edge and the Yomu's Ghost Blade, it makes it so that if a champion is unlucky and runs right into him, it'll take only 3 or 4 auto attacks for him to burn down a target alive, and bonus points for having the double tap to better guarantee that he has the number of shots required to trigger the critical strikes.
Oh yes, and we see. Yeah, honestly, the gold difference right now is about 8,000 gold, which is, it could be worse, but that's kind of a lot at 30 minutes. 8,000 gold translates into about half of an item finished before LMQ can get there, and that half of an item, the stats that it translates into means that OMG has the advantage in a team fight. Like, not because they're particularly better at the game, but just because they have better numbers to throw at LMQ.
Indeed. Now, to make sure that OMG can win the next fight, they've also put down a Last Whisper on Lovely. You see that on LMQ's side. Actually, no, LMQ doesn't have any armor whatsoever, so it's a bit of a questionable item pick, because what Last Whisper does is give you a tiny amount of extra physical damage, but what's known for is to reduce the armor on the enemy team, making so that all of his auto attacks, all of his physical damage spells will land with a lot more hits. But since there is no armor on LMQ right now, what that bug basically is a one-hit wonder.
Yeah, basically. That Last Whisper, it would be more efficient in a different situation. I don't think he's really been looking too much. Whoa, you see Vasily getting very big there. That's the Lulu's ultimate helping him survive the damage out from OMG. If he had not had that on him at that exact moment, he might well have been dead. It also helps that he got the lantern out from Moore. So, good job keeping the carry safe, but I don't think Vasily should have been that far out in the first place.
No, and we see that OMG is now trying to bait for a Baron fight, knowing that LMQ will be reluctant to let it go. What they don't know, however, is that two of them at least are in full vision of a sight ward.
Oh, No Name's getting caught. He's gonna get bursted down. Barely manages to flash out, but no, Loveling follows in with a flash and kills him off. That's a one-man advantage for OMG, and probably all they need to take the Baron because the smite on the jungler is gone.
And smite is a partial spell, but it only hits minions or neutral creeps, which means that he can't use it in combat to, say, smite down an enemy. What it could have done, however, was combine with his spells to deal a burst of damage on Baron Nashor as OMG was trying to take it, stealing it away from them, even if it costed him his own life. But OMG's having none of it. Even with No Name down, they don't want to confront LMQ in a fight while Baron is raining Hellfire on top of them. So instead, they're going to try to push the turrets up and keep the pressure on LMQ's inner defenses.
Yeah, which is probably also smarter, because it's a lot harder to counter a decisive push from a team than it is to attempt to murder them in the Baron Pit, especially when you have Kog'Maw, whose long range and area of effect damage makes him exceptionally dangerous against an enemy team trapped in the Baron Pit. It's also worth noticing, by the way, I can't remember, did they change this, that Baron no longer shreds resistances?
I'll check on that. Let me go check on that right now.
Okay, because regardless, it used to be, certainly, that Baron, when he attacks you, your magic resistance goes down, and Kog'Maw does a ton of magic damage, so being attacked by Baron would also make them more vulnerable to Kog'Maw, which is part of the reason why you would never, ever, ever want to go for Baron. I can't remember if they changed and removed that, however, but it used to be the case, so now you know that.
Okay, so instead of reducing magic resistance, what it does is increase magic damage applied to the target by 25% per stack.
So
and
it's
does
still
stack
dangerous.
up multiple times.
Yeah, so it's still extremely dangerous to let Kog'Maw with all of his long-range magic damage and Xiao Wei Xiao with all of his long-range magic damage pound on you while you're trying to kill that river worm.
Indeed. LQ is now even more trouble because what Cole just picked up is called a Void Staff, freshly bought from a store. And what a Void Staff does is it reduces magic defenses on LQ's side and on any target that Cole has his eyes on. You see that LQ is fully aware of the threat that he and Going represents, as pretty much everybody has something that builds out of a Negatron Cloak or at least helps resist the magic damage. Whether it's I think it's a Holy Grail or the Shroud currently on No Name, the little blue hoodie you see on the second slot, that not only builds out of a heavy magic resistant item, but also provides extra health and I think a little bit of cooldown.
Yeah, and it has a special where if you take damage while you're wearing it, you will start regenerating health a lot faster for a short period of time, like 20 health per second for 5 seconds or something like that.
Oh,
so,
that's what it was. Yes.
So it helps you get quite a bit of health back if you're taking poke damage, which is part of its secondary. It has two build paths, and one of the things it builds into is an item specifically designed to counter against poke damage called the Banshee's Veil. We'll talk about that if it comes up in the play. I don't think it will against OMG, but we'll see. I know I'm just taking down a dragon because they have the advantage and they can, and it extends their gold lead. It's now 12,000 gold ahead. That's a lot. That's a lot. And honestly, I'm surprised that OMG, I don't think they're aware of exactly how far they are ahead, because they don't seem to be very willing to take the fights that could end the game for them.
They know that LQ loves to have actual fights and direct engagements, and that's the one thing that and with their 6-1 turn lead, it's definitely something that they're unwilling to give up quite so easily. They decided that the best way to play against LQ, a team that's like them is known for good aggression, is to play it slow, steady, calm, and not to give the enemy team any openings to exploit. So, although this is a slow game at 34 minutes with no end in sight yet, they are playing this correctly in that they're minimizing the risk that they will otherwise face against LMQ.
Yeah, it's also worth noting that at 34 minutes, the death timers are long enough that all it's going to take at this point is one fight, and all of a sudden someone loses 6 objectives.
Oh yes. The later the game goes, the longer the longer it takes for you to respawn and rejoin the fight. So although it's not too bad yet at 34 minutes, it is roughly half a minute in the respawn queue, waiting to join the fight from way back at the back of your base. So if a fight goes badly, usually you're just going to have to retreat entirely.
Yeah, so basically this is also why OMG are so reluctant, because if they lose a fight, if it goes badly for them, if something goes wrong, that means LMQ most likely going to rush down the mid lane, and at this point probably can't take out an inhibitor, but they can certainly do a lot of damage to the inhibitor turret, giving LMQ an easy place to pressure OMG should they need it.
Yes. The way you can control the map even without being there is to help push the minion wave up, so that way it does most of the work for you. The minion wave will eventually reach the turret and deal damage onto that turret. If you manage to accumulate enough, like a twice dense minion wave can probably crack open the inhibitor if the enemy team's kept too busy to respond.
Yeah, Xiao checking the Baron there. They don't have any vision around, so they don't know if OMG are actually. If they do have vision, why the hell did he use his ultimate then? Okay, he was using his ultimate. I don't know exactly why he threw one in the Baron pit. Maybe just for good measure. Not sure. But we got a teleport coming into the red buff pit from going. That's not really going to result in anything because LMQ back off immediately. So that's a bit of a wasted cooldown. The spell effect you see under Going's feet, by the way, is because he teleported from all the way back in the base. And that's called a Home Guards boots that he's picked up. It's an enchantment for any boots that you pick up. You can enchant them with Home Guards and you will get a huge speed boost. Oh my god, almost stole it. No Name goes in for the steal, doesn't quite get it. He gets smited away by Loveling, who's now going on to Vasily. Vasily's isolated from his team. He has no friends, and now he's going on. Boom, reset party. Yeah, that was bad positioning by LMQ.
That was, and part of the reason was because Loveling's Kha'Zix has the ability where if he kills a target, his jump resets, allowing him to cast it again for the same amount of
caught by hook, took a lot of damage, but now Going is coming straight in onto Xiao, who gets the little ultimate on him, but it's not even nearly enough. The Shockwave takes him out as LMQ's Moore gets taken out. Now Ackerman, and this is the catastrophic fight that nobody wanted to take, but OMG found it, and they even have the Baron on. They're just basically going to push for the win. They've got 14 seconds on No Name, 15 seconds on Vasily. It's more than enough to finish the game before the rest of the team can come back up and help them.
Indeed, it is. I think OG might have actually just won the game right here, as they're only going to have 2 enemies to face while they're taking down the inhibitor, and they have plenty of auto attack damage to lay down on it. So it's definitely a big
you're way behind me, man.
Of...
They've just finished the game.
Yes, they have.
Where are you at the timer?
They already finished it. I lost the timer, so. Whatever.
Okay, yeah, because it's just because you said inhibitor, and you meant Nexus.
Oh yeah, I did mean Nexus. Sorry about that.
Okay, I was confused. I thought you were still back at the inhibitor, so I was like, what the hell?
No. They were already hitting Nexus. It was GG.
Very much GG. So, LMQ can't really be the third American team to go through to the group stages, unfortunately, but they got quite close.
So, unfortunately, America does not get the 3-team sweep through, but that was definitely Loveland playing an excellent Kha'Zix.
Oh yeah,
that was definitely him proving why he's considered one of China's the #1 jungler for the last 2 years. He started out as the #1 jungler, went on to be the #1 support, and now he's back in the role that he's made his reputation with.
Yeah. Loveling has worn several hats over his League of Legends career, and one of them, it turns out, is a domination hat. That was a powerful performance from him. Like, notice all the times he went in on targets that he knew were isolated, that even though maybe, it wouldn't have been the smartest engagement on any other jungler, with Kha'Zix's extra damage against isolated targets, he can get them down before anything bad can happen in return. So that's a very detailed knowledge of how champions work. So LMQ are out of contention for the quarterfinals, which is sad for them, but, America can still be quite happy that they've got 2 teams going through, because the Lions dropped that game to kaboom, and I'm never going to get over that. We've got, what else do we have coming up? Isn't it just a tiebreaker now between Cloud9 and Najin White Shield? I don't believe that this should be the last regularly scheduled match of the night, I believe.
Yes, that is the tiebreaker.
Yeah, tiebreaker between Najin White Shield and Cloud9. Now, Cloud9 beat Najin White Shield just about like an hour and 10 minutes ago or something like that. And it was a very tough, extremely tense match. And now they've got to do it all over again. So that will be something to watch.
Indeed.
Yeah. And I have my voice shut right now, and I'm barely.
And I'm exhausted.
Yeah, and I'm barely keeping it together.
I'm exhausted.
So we're gonna end the broadcast with the last regularly scheduled match, and we're going to enjoy. I seem to have lost one of the titles there, and we're going to enjoy the final game as regular spectators like yourselves. Thank you very much for tuning in. I'm just gonna mute us now and turn off the broadcast, and you can go back to the regular stream and listen to the shoutcasters take you through the post game. And if you've learned a lot from the newbie stream here, maybe watch the regular broadcast for the last game and see how much you understand. Maybe we've helped you out. See you around.
Hopefully we helped you out.
Yeah, I shall attempt to get the stream going again for the next matches in the quarterfinals once they roll around. But I will, until then, have an excellent week, probably until they start. I am very exhausted right now. See you around, guys.
See ya.